What do you think, Tim, about credit card companies giving us codes if we buy guns or ammo, and it's going to be flagged and then handed to law enforcement? But don't worry, no customer information or what was purchased, just dollar amounts. What initial gut reaction on that one?
Yeah, I mean, because law enforcement can do so much with just dollar amounts. If
Yeah,
we don't know who
exactly.
spent the money and that we don't really know what they spent the money on, we're just, adding numbers together. I
Exactly.
can see how that could prevent crime. I mean, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. It's for the
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
We just want to do
It
accounting for
is.
the children.
Man, the children already in the first 2 minutes, the children have made an appearance. This is
It's
definitely going to be an episode.
always about the children.
Well, it's always about the children. Every time. All the time. Every time. No rights for us. Well, for the children. What about their rights when they grow up? No. Then it's for their children too. Anyway, whatever. So this is number one. Dr. Button Pusher, I know you're there. I feel your good vibes. American Express, Visa, MasterCard move ahead with code to track gun store purchases in California, and the rose-colored glasses are gone. All right, so we're dealing with something, Tim, and there's some backstory that people need to know about here, and we're going to walk through this. So this actually has roots from about 2022. Tell me when this strikes any type of memory on this, right? So in 2022, in the fall of 2022, Elizabeth Warren and some other Democrats, and there's no slides in this, I'm just doing this from memory because we covered it. They put forward a letter to the International Commission that controls all the banking and credit card codes that basically standardizes it across the board. And they wanted to isolate everyone who buys a gun or ammo as a potential terrorist activity flag, right? That was the whole idea. Well, they went ahead and did it through other credit card companies. And then because we covered it and because Republicans got involved and all sorts of people in the political spectrum got involved, the credit card companies backed off, but the Democrats still wanted it. So the credit card companies say, nah, ain't happening. Democrats still want it. Well, fast forward to about last week, 2 weeks ago, you had Janet Yellen, who is the Secretary of the Treasury. She came forward, and there were questions about the Treasury making banks classify people for their gun purchases and ammo purchases. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does.
Weird. It's almost like the Democrats want to do this thing where they don't get it one way, they'll go another way. And now that the Treasury Secretary, where there was some pressure put on her, now it's going to California where they're actually instilling it through legislation. And this is where it gets really fascinating, Tim, because the people of Second Legacy and everyone else that watch it, we can stop this in its tracks, but they've been relegated back down to the states. Does that remind you of anything that we've seen recently, Tim? Where you're looking at federal and then you get kind of stymied and then you go to state level. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, this has been the tactic for the last few years now, right? So the anti-gunners are not doing so well at the federal level, either legislatively or even in the courts. So now they're just going to start playing games at the states. And of course, this for them, it's a sound strategy, right? Because we've covered this before. The national gun rights organizations that fight all these things in the courts, when you disperse those fights out over 50 different states versus just fighting always in the federal court system and fighting in DC legislatively, you have to spend much more money fighting all these different court battles in all these different states. So it's this divide and conquer and make it even more expensive for us to fight to maintain our rights. And they generally have better success at these types of antics in far left leaning states like California, Illinois, and all that, right? So yeah,
exactly.
It's not new.
No, it's not new at all, but it's what's fascinating about this. And this is why I love doing what we do. We zoom out and we can look at the same trends across different things. They did it with the border recently. They did it with guns before, and now they're doing it with credit card purchase codes around the Second Amendment. So let me show you a few snippets here, and then we'll continue to get to where it gets really juicy. So this is number 2. So the new California law that will allow banks to potentially track suspicious gun purchases and report them to law enforcement. That's what we're looking at here, reporting suspicious purchases to law enforcement. We'll get to suspicious in a second.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to know what suspicious is.
We're going to get there. We're getting there. So this is number 3. So this is where what kind of supplements what we were just talking about a second ago. MasterCard, Visa, and American Express initially agreed to implement the code for firearms sellers, but later paused their work on it after receiving blowback from Second Amendment advocates concerned tracking gun purchases would infringe on the rights of legal gun owners. Well, no kidding. Of course it would. That's why we made such a stink about it, right? Well, this is some more of that same backstory that I was kind of bringing into the story on. This is number 4. Gun control activists hope the code, approved by an international organization in 2022, can be used as a tool to help identify suspect purchases and consequently stop gun crime, including mass shootings. Proponents say a code for firearm merchants would allow banks and credit unions to alert law enforcement of potentially suspicious purchasing patterns in the same way they already flag other types of transactions, such as those that suggest identity theft or terrorist financing.
So that's what this is about. Yeah, because we've had so many, major terrorist attacks where they've gone in and done suspicious gun purchases, and then
Yeah,
maybe
that's
there's
odd, isn't it?
a false flag they're working on here. Conspiracy mind.
No,
Hold
put
on.
those red glasses back on. Good
do
Lord.
I put the tinfoil hat on? But the props. I got props.
I bet your whole wall behind the camera is nothing but props.
Yeah. So suspicious gun purchase. What would that be? A gun purchase? I mean,
a gun purchase.
They're just all suspicious, so we're not going to track anybody. We don't know who you are, what you're buying. We just see this number. We find this particular number to be alarming, and therefore we're going to alert law enforcement. Well, what's law enforcement going to do, right? If they don't have that customer information, what are they going to do? It doesn't end there, Braden. There is an answer to my question.
Every time. No, there's not.
Right, because the store gets its own code, right?
Right.
So they can identify the store, but hey, we're not getting any customer information here. We've just identified the store and the transaction amount. So if law enforcement goes there and demands to see sales records, they can match that number, $921.72. Now they've tied it to somebody that made the purchase.
No, I hadn't even thought about that, Tim.
Are they lying to us?
Man.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. I hope Dr. Button Pusher puts the sarcasm meter so far off the scale on this one.
That, or perhaps they're just going to banks and law enforcement are going to use the special Diddlebum version of what is it?
Not Diddlebum.
Adobe.
Staples and paper.
Yeah.
Adobe.
Yeah. And that way they can't really search it. They may collect the information, but we have the Diddlebum version that doesn't allow searching. Yeah.
What did we say? We said it was the Rain Man ATF employees who knew exactly where everything was mentally.
5,267. 5,267. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, here's something to set your heart at ease, because those are valid concerns. But listen to this, Tim. While a merchant code, this is still number 4, by the way, while a merchant code for standalone firearm and ammunition sellers would yield data that shows a transaction was made at a gun store, the credit card companies say the code would not provide details about the customer or insight into individual items that were purchased. So here, before you get going, I just have to ask the question out loud for a friend in the back. Then why?
Well, but what did they not say in that sentence? They didn't say we would not track the store with the unique identifier. Right?
Correctamundo.
Yes.
It's weird. I'll tell you, it's very odd. It is very, I feel comfortable because they said, after all, no customer information. They would never, ever find a way around something like that. Ever, every time, all day. So now, let me get you into this part. This is the part where I really enjoy this, because in number 5, this is just a brief thing to lead into 6. Last month, executives from MasterCard, Visa, and Amex each wrote to a congressional Democrats assuring them that the code will be available for retailers in California by that deadline. Well, listen to how they're getting their hand caught in the cookie jar a little bit. Listen to this statement. If you've ever seen a statement, Tim, between someone who's walking on a tightrope, doesn't want to fall either way, check this out. Quote, "With respect to the firearm merchant code, there continues to be a tremendous amount of regulatory and legislative uncertainty," wrote Visa Senior Vice President Robert B. Thompson III. Of course, he's a third. Adding that the company will endeavor to comply with the requirements in California. Quote, "Given that conflicting state laws on this topic and the likelihood that other states will enact legislation to either restrict or mandate the code, our implementation pause remains in effect." So what that means, Tim, they're not going to do this nationwide. They're only going to do it where they have the cover of the legislature in those states to where they ask for it.
Right. Or until
they know
shuts
that this is not good.
Right.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. So this is another example of the left pushing too far on something, which bleeds into our next segment with the assault weapons ban onslaught of a request that they did for the SCOTUS yesterday. They're pushing too far. They're pushing too many doors open, and they're going to eventually get the door closed. If you were talking about a video game approach here or a military approach, this would be called an overextension.
Yep.
That's what this would be called. Because when those doors shut, they can't open them again.
And these and these states have sympathetic parties in these credit card companies, but the credit card companies are going, no,
This is uncomfy.
we're going to be a little careful here because they know they're going to get sued and they know that the courts are going to get involved. So they're like,
exactly.
We're going to try to comply with state law, but you can see them squirming a bit in this statement, right?
Yep.
Bailiff,
Exactly.
whack his pee-pee.
Whack his pickle.
We can't get through a single episode of Second Legacy with some sort of pickle comment, pee-pee comment, cocks for glocks. I mean, like, good Lord. That's okay, though, because the Second Legacy people, they love it. They love every second of it.
We got dick jokes. Yeah. Okay.
We do. We got them in spades.
Okay.
I can't. We're going to get in trouble right now. Like, I can see both of us starting to roll that. Okay, the innuendo is starting to go. We're good, though. We're good. Because this will send us right back down to normal. Flaccid alert. Senator Elizabeth Warren. That'll do it. This is number 7. A Massachusetts Democrat said in a statement, quote, "It's a start that credit card companies have committed to comply with the merchant code and law in California. But we need implementation across the country if we're going to do everything we can to prevent gun violence. The sooner credit card companies and banks begin using the new merchant code for gun retailers and tracking suspicious gun purchases, the more mass shootings we will have a shot at preventing before they occur." I can't even get through this woman's words.
Okay, so again, tell me, how does this nebulous proposal prevent mass shootings? What suspicious transaction? Because do these shooters go in and buy $1 million worth of guns and go, oh, we got our mass shooter. They just bought like 1,500 Daniel Defense rifles. No.
Where this stems from, though, this is the important piece. Understand where this stems from, and then you can back out on this, right?
Okay.
This is all coming from Uvalde. Okay, so the perp in the Uvalde tragedy, which is a horrible thing, don't get it twisted, went in with a credit card and bought 2 rifles. So that's what the whole point was. Like, well, if they didn't have credit cards or there's some way to flag those purchases, but then we could do this, that, and the other. There's a background check.
Is this the same guy that also bought a brand new truck and didn't have a job?
Yep.
Okay, well, why don't we flag suspicious car purchases?
Exactly.
How about we flag suspicious U-Haul rentals?
Yep. But that goes to whoa. Did you just make a reference to something? I think you just did.
2 somethings. There were 2 somethings.
Oh my gosh.
One in Oklahoma and one in New York.
Yeah.
2 somethings.
That's right. Wait, hold on. No, 3. And we had something where a U-Haul literally drove onto the White House gates and had a single flag and a whole moving van.
Yep.
Anyway, that's a different thing.
Had a single flag and yeah.
Oh, the whole thing. It was terrifying. But, that goes to the point here, and this is where it gets really convoluted. You're focusing on purchasing and credit cards being the issue. Well, do you know what they had to do in order to get to that credit card point? They had to do a 4473. They had to do a background check. They had to do all these things that the left tells us would be perfectly fine and prevent mass shootings and tragedies. Right. But since that didn't work and that's uncomfortable, now we got to focus on the credit cards. What this is the quintessential, well, my idea wasn't wrong. It was that one. And then when the credit card wasn't wrong, well, it was humanity. It's just like, it's everything else they do on the left, man. It's never their ideology. It's always something else. It's always pointing other ways. You can't introspectively look at anything on the left. You can't do that, Tim.
That's absolutely true. And I will say, though, him buying 2 rifles was incredibly suspicious. I will give it that. That is insanely suspicious because I cannot make it out of a gun store without buying at least 3.
At least 7. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems a little off to me. If somebody's only buying 1 or 2 rifles, they might not be an American.
They might not be red-blooded.
What kind of American? Oh, I'm not going to do it. Anyway.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't bring out the rose-colored glasses. We're already this deep. We can't do it. I already mentioned Elizabeth Warren. It's not good.
I just got to do it.
Okay, they're on.
What kind of American are you?
All right, there you go. Okay. You're good. I feel better. Do you feel better?
I feel better.
That was a good way to introduce and end that segment. We had rose-colored parentheses on that one.